The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast ServiceNow series. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Dan Stanovich. Dan is the General Manager of the Americas Insurance Life Business Process Service Division at DXC. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, JP. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you, sir. We've got lots to cover, but as we always do, Dan, let's start with yourself, please. Can you give us a little bit of a summary overview of your background in technology, where you got started early on, some of the interesting roles you've held along the way, but most importantly, what's led you to where you are today as one of the GMs leading a major division of DXC Technology?
Yeah, happy to. So I would say that my career is based technology, but more technology as an enabler. So I started out, my career has always been in the outsourcing space. Spent the first 25 years of that in what I would call HR payroll outsourcing. Did global payroll outsourcing, did HR benefits administration, those kind of things. That career is what led me to DXC. So some of my partners or whatever that I worked through, or colleagues that I worked through with in those industries, ended up at DXC, and that brought me here. And ultimately how I got into the insurance business as a whole. So when I came to hear from those individuals that I knew from my prior life, and they introduced me to the insurance. So I didn't really know much about the life insurance industry until about 5 years ago when I joined DXC.
Excellent. Well, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into the industry focus in a moment, but I want to set the stage for the people listening. Look, most people will know DXC Technology, major name in the ServiceNow space. But for those who are maybe not as familiar, can you sort of explain the overarching business of DXC, who you are, the mission of the organization, and then we'll jump into your group specifically, which is focusing on life and insurance.
Yeah, and as you said, DXC is a dominant technology company, but it's actually made up of several different businesses, right? So we've got kind of those traditional businesses, which is GIS, kind of more your infrastructure, cloud business. We've got our consulting and engineering businesses, modern workplace businesses, but then we also have a business focused completely on insurance. And that's really built around our proprietary software. So we've had proprietary software in this space back through the CSC days to when it ultimately became DXC Technology. And some of those softwares have been around 30, 40 years in that space. And so we're the dominant player in life and annuity software for insurance companies. And then the natural expansion of that has been the business that I run, which is a life BPS business, which is basically running the back office operations for some of these large life and annuity carriers using that same software.
Your role and your function, your division, where you find yourself working day in, day out within the ServiceNow space. Can you describe, when you look at modern technology adoption, the shift towards cloud and AI, in your vertical of life and annuity, why has ServiceNow been such a broadly adopted platform, and what are DXC creating on the ServiceNow platform specifically for these life customers?
Yeah, that's great. So again, as I talked about it, we're really good at life and annuity software, right? To run the business of life and annuity customers, right? So help them underwrite policies, sell policies, manage those policies. And when you think about ServiceNow, so again, just maybe take a step back for a second. If you look at the business I run the back office operations for 30 large carriers today.
Yeah.
Right. And so that has in and of it a lot of complexity, right? So I need workflow technology. I have a lot of different technologies for different needs, right? And so and obviously that over time that gets expensive, right? You get a lot of technology debt, all that kind of stuff. And so when about a couple of years ago, what we did is we went out to say, I need to simplify that structure. I need to improve the workflow orchestration in my business. I need to automate more. I need to find ways to leverage AI. I need a partner that's going to help me get there.
Yeah.
So we're in the market to try to find that partner. We talked to some of the largest players in the industry, went through about a years-long process, and ultimately ended up selecting ServiceNow really for a couple reasons. I think certainly technology. We just felt like their single instance technology and their deep leaning into AI and ultimately agentic AI was where we wanted to be. So that was good. And then from a partnership standpoint, they made sense because, again, we are the experts in insurance, life and annuity insurance, and they didn't have much of an insurance vertical, but they wanted to build that vertical with a big partner. And so it was just a natural merger that made a lot of sense for both of us. So we get the power of that ServiceNow platform and the power of DXC in the insurance space. Bringing those two things together is really what's helping us to build a solution that we think is going to transform the industry. So it's DXC IP being built on top of that ServiceNow platform, and I think just gives us incredible power.
Yeah, it's such an impressive collaboration, and obviously has huge potential. You talked about your business unit being responsible for 30 of the largest carriers. That's billions and billions of dollars of annual revenue, and incredibly complex. So to make that switch and transition is not an overnight journey by any stretch, but I know in conversations you and I have had, it's been going very, very well, very successful. Talk to us a little bit about the transition through the internal operations side, but then what's come out the other side. You know, any recent wins or customer examples that you can share with us where it's had an impact and it's shown value add, and it gives you more cause to be excited about what's possible.
Yeah, so the product we're launching is called Assure BPM. We actually went through an MVP stage of that and launched it in our customer conference in Charleston, South Carolina back in March. And so it was really the first time it hit the market. We had ServiceNow there talking about its capabilities as well as our own teams. And from there, it's kind of caught fire, right? So I think the industry is clamoring for change and transformation, right? There's a recognition that they have significant manual process, disparate and non-integrated systems, right? And you need a solution that can kind of hook all that stuff together and bring enhanced customer experience, new automation, and agentic AI, right? That you can't do with some of these legacy policy administration systems. It just, the capability doesn't exist. So you need to get outside of those systems and bring this technology that sits over the top of that. And the way we're really bringing this to market is really in two ways. One is selling it as a standalone SaaS solution. And then the other is being embedded as part of the solution set I bring to market, right? So think about it from a customer standpoint. They're going to look at this and say, either they want to get out of the back office business of administering life insurance and annuity policies and give that whole thing to me to run in my business. That would be one angle. And then I would leverage Assure BPM to make sure that business is the most efficient and automated as it can be. And the other is just the customers that feel comfortable, they can run the back office operations themselves, but they need a technology to help them do that better. And then we'll sell the Assure BPM as a SaaS solution to them. Again, all built upon that ServiceNow platform and this being used in different ways. But the market demand's been incredible since we brought it to the market. Every day we're finding not only more customers that are interested in it, but we're also getting new use cases being brought to us. Customers are coming to us now with ideas to say, we get that you're focused on the initial modules we're going out there with the policyholder services, billing and payment, claims, and new business. But customers are coming to us with other ideas to say, can you do this? This would be a massive impact on my business. Can you do this within the BPM? So I think they're starting to see the art of the possible and starting to design their own ideas around it.
It's a great endorsement of what you've done when a customer is coming to you saying, hey, can you consider creating something else? Because they're starting to think what more it can do, because, and that goes back to the trust of having a successful case study and it showing impact. You mentioned in your introduction, you previously didn't have experience in life and insurance per se, and this has been your journey to it, but you've, through working at DXC, have now built up your own level of expertise. When you look at the team that you oversee, and obviously it's the the pre-sales, the solution consultations, and then there's the build and implementation.
Yeah.
It's difficult to find the whole roster of people who will have the industry experience. In many cases, they're learning from others. Talk to us a little bit about the environment of your group, the varied backgrounds, and you give us a look behind the scenes of what it would look like through a typical project lifecycle.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. So if you look at my organization, I have 6,000 people in my organization, right? So 4,500 of those are what I would call operations focused resources, and then 1,500 of them are more of our IT resources. But as you said, most of them are used to operating in more of a traditional context, right? If you take the operations people, for example, they're used to operating in a very complex manual environment. They're actually, I always like to say, I spent a lot of time with good people managing bad process, right? So they're swivel chairing between systems. They're trying to keep these processes together to ultimately deliver great quality results for our customers. And they're able to do that, but it takes a lot of effort and checking, quality checking, and all that kind of stuff. So I think from their perspective, they have deep operational knowledge of what it takes to service a customer, an insurance customer, and they have a desire to want to make it better. And so what we've done now with this ServiceNow capability and what we're doing with Assured BPM is created that opportunity to redo it all, right? So said to them, okay, give us everything you know about insurance operations. So that was, I think we came up with 127 different workflow types that we needed to go through, and then basically tell us how to make them better. So we went through a process of re-engineering that. And so I think, what we're finding with our existing teams and resources is they're kind of finally getting that chance to take everything they know about what's not working well and build something new that is going to change how we service this industry going forward. So I think for them, I think it's a massive uplift. Obviously, we go through the same pains of any organization going through this type of change, right? There's going to be some who are going to be slow to grab onto the change and some who are going to be more aggressive. But I think ultimately, the pull is there. And obviously that, the general news around agentic AI in the marketplace and the focus on AI, I think is, kind of helping to fuel that excitement, I think, for people in my business.
Yeah, completely. And I want to come back to the exciting component in a moment when we talk about the road ahead, but you touched a little bit on pain points and challenges. Each industry vertical will have their own unique set of challenges, and then there's always the overarching difficulties. Through the ServiceNow lens in particular, DXC has obviously had tremendous success with ServiceNow across the board, and specifically in life and annuity. There's going to be continued investment, especially when you have clients coming to you asking for custom applications, creative add-ons. What are the challenges that you and your group face when it comes to servicing the demand, staying on the bleeding edge, competing with competition? What are the things that stand out to you purely through hey, we've got an increase in demand for ServiceNow capabilities. How do we make sure we can meet that demand?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I look at it really myopically through that Assured BPM focus, right? The product that we've built, not so much broad ServiceNow capability, right? But when I look at it from the BPM perspective, I think to your point, we have to say, again, if the demand continues the way we see it already and expect it to increase over time, we're going to have to build up more capability to build this product on our own. Today, we leverage a mix of, I would call, ServiceNow professional services, as well as some of their preferred partners to help build some of the product coming out of the gate. Makes sense because we're not experts and we want to get that first launch as clean as we can get it. But I think going forward, we want to continue to build that capability out, right? And so we're going to build up our own ServiceNow capability to support BPM in and of itself. And to your point, it's going to be a living, breathing product going forward, focused on continuous improvement, enhancement, expansion. And so we're going to bring in architects, developers, right? All those types of resources. And so I think from our perspective, that's going to be critical, right? And those who have expertise around agentic AI and stuff, because again, I think it's going to be that continuous learning cycle that we're going to go through and continue to make that better based on customer demand.
Yeah, and again, to continue to build out that workforce, hyper-competitive space as the demand outpaces the supply. But what you've described and what you're building is something that will be very attractive to those who want to do more work that's just beyond a typical implementation of a module when we think about ServiceNow, which brings us back to your early point. what's exciting about the road ahead. Landscape is changing so quick, particularly with the introduction of AI and agentic AI. So it's very hard to plan beyond the 12 to 18 month time frame. With that said, your customers are large in scale, so the implementations and product creation can have a bit of a roadmap. When you look at the rest of 2025 into 2026, what are you excited about? What are the 2 or 3 things that you and the business group are hoping to accomplish that will really take you guys a further step forward?
Yeah, I think for me, again, because I have this captive set of customers, right? And, call it a proving ground for this new capability. And so we're already in process of implementing one of those customers on the new product, right? And the first one's always going to be the most challenging because you got to hook up all the plumbing to all the other systems. You got to, build out the base product, all that kind of stuff, right? So that first road is a little hard. But once we get through that one, this is where I get excited, right? Because once we start getting through that one, we start bringing that product in, not only is it going to impact my business, but now I've got these proof points, right? I can actually show you, hey, I've implemented this within our business, and here's what we're seeing. So today I'm talking about what I think is possible, right? 30-40%, processing time reduction of manual processes overall, fraud detection, all kinds of things. But now I'm going to be able to prove it because I'll have it built into our system. So come the end of calendar 2025, we'll have a significant portion of this implemented and probably already starting on the second one. I think after you get through those first 1 or 2, we're going to have a process we can rinse and repeat pretty easily. So, that's really where our vision and dream is going. Is that we can implement this pretty quickly on customers and they can start getting significant impact pretty quick. So that's what's really exciting to me. So I think it's getting it implemented in my business and starting to launch some new customers in more of that SaaS model. And we've already got a couple of conversations pretty far down that road. And so we'll have those, different sets of proof points, I think that'll really help to accelerate the growth of this product in the market and really begin to transform that life and annuity industry.
All very exciting stuff, and that will all come back to you having the expertise internally to continue to develop and iterate these use cases and build the plumbing, as you said, but then bring it to more customers. I'm sure there'll be more ideas that come off the back of that as well. It's always good to hear from industry leaders, particularly when they have a focus on a segment, a market segment like yours being insurance and life, because you're talking about the business case first and then the technology is second. It's what tool do I use to solve the business problem? And we're obviously talking about ServiceNow right now because it makes sense. To continue to offer these services and build out further capabilities, you talked about you're going to need to bring in people. So I want to spend some time talking about why DXC. We at Alldus, we spend a lot of time talking to the ServiceNow and AI workforce about what companies are growing, what problems they're solving, what the environment is like, and how it's stimulating and challenging. Speaking to an audience of potential future employees, future peers and colleagues, what can you tell us about your group, what you're building, the work that you're doing, and why it could be an exciting place to be over the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think I would summarize it like this. We are, DXC Insurance is the #1 software and services provider for the insurance industry across the globe. There's nobody bigger by any measure. When you look at it from a life and annuity perspective, we are the #1 software provider in the world, and we're the largest life BPS provider in the world, right? So, when you think about what type of organization you want to join, being in that kind of situation where you're now the market leader in insurance, and I'm essentially kind of giving you the opportunity to basically transform that insurance industry, right? We know, having worked in this industry for a long time, that it is ripe for this automation play that we're bringing, right? This workflow automation play and the introduction of agentic AI. The industry is clamoring for it. Right. And so, because again, they're loaded with manual process, disparate systems, legacy technologies, right? And they need to make all that stuff work better together. And the best technology, in our personal opinion, to do that is ServiceNow and ultimately the Assure BPM product that's built on top of that. So I think when you talk about talent perspective, this is a significant opportunity, like I said, to have a massive impact on a very large industry across the globe. by leveraging the ServiceNow technology and capability, right, and bringing agentic AI to bear on the insurance industry, which, I think typically most people will look at insurance and say, oh, that's a very conservative, rigid industry. It will never be ready for agentic AI. We're here to challenge that. And I think that's what I think anybody would join our organization would have the opportunity to do that. I mean, we're in this business to continue to grow our capability and footprint and leveraging this technology to be able to do that.
Yeah, so many great points in there. Market leader in what you do, which allows you to think about the next generation of technology and what's needed 5-10 years down the road. You have the customer base, you have the data, and you're investing in the evolution of these services, moving away from traditional legacy and using AI to disrupt and improve an industry which could greatly benefit from it. So yeah, you summarized it perfectly. And it's important to say DXC have a tremendous reputation as being a good place to work from a culture standpoint as well. So Dan, thank you so much for coming on today. This was a pleasure. I'm delighted that we finally got to have this conversation. Didn't disappoint, and it sounds like you have got your hands full. You're going to be very busy over the next couple of years. So
I will be.
We wish you, the team, and everyone at DXC all the best, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Yeah, thanks, JP. I'm welcome to come back and talk about all the success we're having, hoping in several months from now.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.